The Steve Austin Show is brought to you free today by our friends at BetOnline. Get in the mix at betonline.ag and use the promo code PodcastOne for your 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts and exclusive partner of PodcastOne Sportsnet.
PodcastOne presents the Steve Austin Show Classics.
Yeah, man, I'm sitting here with legit boss, Sasha Banks. We just got finished recording about a 30-minute special with Bailey, the hugger. I got a hug coming and going.
Yeah.
Yep, I got a hug from you, too. Welcome to Steve Austin Show. We've been sitting here talking off microphone. I was telling him kind of my life story. I said, let's get off me and start talking about you again. Because we was talking about California.
Yep.
You was born in California.
I was.
Fairfield, right?
Fairfield, yeah.
Where is Fairfield?
It's up north. It's kind of next to San Francisco and Sacramento, like right in between. I lived there since I was 9, and then we moved to Iowa. From Iowa, we went to Oregon, back to California, then Minnesota, and then Boston, where I kind of found myself, and that's where the legit boss from Boston. And then now I'm in Florida. I'm in Orlando. I have a house out there, and I love it.
How did all that moving around affect you?
Ooh, if it got to me. The number one reason is because I have a brother with autism and disabilities. So we kind of moved around to find the right doctors and have people help us. We went to Iowa because that's where my mom's family is, and hopefully they would help us out with money. That didn't help very, very much. And then we went to Oregon because that's where my birth dad is, trying to help with more money again. We went back to California because that's where my mom's friends and family are. Nothing there. And we went to Minnesota because they said there was going to be a really good autistic school for my brother. He got abused there. Long story. My mom didn't work for 7 years. We were living in a hotel. Finally, she got a job, got the offer in Boston, and we moved there, and things took off for both of us there in a good way.
So what, with your brother needing the help they needed,
Yep.
with respect to your relationship with people and making friends and stuff like that, as much as you were moving around, did you make many friends or were you kind of a loner?
I was a huge loner, which is so crazy to me. I think about it now because, I went to a regular school from elementary, and then from 6th grade through, graduating, it was all online school. I had no relationships, no friends, no one to talk to. It was just me, my mom, and my brother, and mostly just me and my brother. My mom is a huge Christian and trying to find, friends at church, but, I wasn't as crazy into God as she was at the time, and now I am because, God definitely has got me here and brought me to the places that I needed to be. But, I was such a loner. All I had was legit my brother and wrestling. Until I found wrestling, that was everything for me. At the age of 10, I started watching wrestling, and, that's when we were in Iowa at the time, and I had friends, and they would always be like, hey, can you come out and play this and that? I'm like, no, I got to stay home. I got to watch wrestling. I need to watch it. Like, can't you record it? I'm like, no. To me, I thought it was live.
Right.
It wasn't, Raw was live, but SmackDown wasn't. I'm like, no, I need to see it live. I need to know what's going on. But the only thing that ever made me happy was wrestling. And I told my mom, like, I'll stay at home. I'll watch Joshua. That's my brother's name. I'll do everything for you. Just give me those 2 hours to myself to watch wrestling and, keep them away so I can have it, be in my room and just watch it. Cause that was pretty much my getaway, from escaping, what was going on in my life at the time.
Man, when I think about online schools, I mean, that's kind of such a foreign concept to me because there's a big age gap between myself and you.
Yeah.
You're a youngster. You're only 25 years old. Is it a legitimate system? I mean, could you cheat? I mean, did you cheat?
You can definitely cheat. I did cheat.
I'm not going to tell anybody, and nobody listens to the show anyway.
Yeah, I did cheat. I mean, if you need to find the answers, there's Google right there. I would have my test on one tab, click over to Google. If I didn't know the answer, boom, boom, boom. There it is. Got an A. Easy.
But here's the thing. On your side, you got the answer.
I got
so
the
you
answer.
learned the lesson, right?
I did, and I still learned. But the biggest thing, I don't want to say to nobody, like, don't finish school, this and that, don't go to college. But I knew what I wanted in life. I wanted to be a professional wrestler. I don't know what I could take up in going to professional wrestling as a college. You know what I mean? But I'm here. If I don't really have a fallback plan, but, I'm putting everything in God's hands. So I don't want to say don't go to college, don't finish school, but,
Yeah, but I always tell people, hey, man, go do what you want to do.
Yeah.
I graduated from high school, and then the only reason I was able to go to college because I got an athletic scholarship to junior college and then to a regular college. And then when my scholarship ran out, I went to a semester that I paid for myself, And then I was burned out, and I was already working on a freight dock anyway, driving a forklift. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go do wrestling. And some people ask me, did you have a backup plan? Hell no.
Yeah,
there was no plan B, didn't have a backup. I was going to be a pro wrestler. But I always tell kids today, arm yourself with as much education or trade as you can.
Exactly.
So you do have a fallback plan.
Right.
Once you finish your online studies, that's when you got into wrestling school, or was there any thoughts of going to college, or did you have, I know you want to be a wrestler, but it's such a hard thing to go and do. Were you interested in doing or being anything else?
Kind of, sort of. I don't know. So to me, I feel like I've been training to be a wrestler since I was 10 in a weird way. I did everything I could to study it. You know what I mean?
When you say study, how so?
I would watch everything from New Japan to every type of wrestling that I could find. I would do it. When I was 12, I emailed so many wrestling schools everywhere, even in Canada, New Jersey. I'm like, can you please train me? Can you train me? Can you train me? Can you train me? They're like, how old are you? I'm like, 12. No, you got to be 16. You got to be 18. And of course, my mom would not let me do that at the time. So at 16, I found an MMA school because I watched the RVD DVD and he did MMA. And I'm like, oh, maybe if I get flexible and I do this, that would help me with wrestling. And it does. They teach you how to roll and all that stuff. So when I joined wrestling school, that came very easy and naturally. Even bumping, they'll teach you how to fall in MMA. So I always felt like I was always training myself to be a wrestler since I was 10. I would rent DVDs on how to be a pro wrestler. I would take bumps on my mattress, all these little things. But, my brother went to acupuncture, and the doctor was like, you're really good at this. You're really great with people with autism. You're really calm. You're a good helper. Maybe you're interested in something like this. I'm like, maybe. And he told me that he would teach me. So I was going towards that route, finding an acupuncture school, but wrestling always came first. Are you a person that if you're getting a little banged up or dinged up, will you go get acupuncture absolutely.
done?
Yeah. And I feel like it helps me a lot. It relieves pain. I'm not really big on taking meds and all this stuff. I'm more on like the Eastern medicine type of field.
And that's
it helped my brother a lot.
He won't be one of the many individuals who get strung out on a bunch of gimmicks.
Yes. It's always helped me. So I've seen what it done for him and people with autism. It was hard at first to get him, to stay calm and, to wait for an hour with these needles in your head, but it does help a lot. I've noticed a difference.
My neighbor, guy that lives in one house down from me is like nationally known or internationally known for like being an acupuncture specialist. And back in the day, when I first moved here to 316 Gimmick Street, I'd go over there and the dude put the needles in me. I'd lay in there like, I don't know if it did anything for me, but it really helped my wife. She got a bad back.
Yeah.
So, but it's very interesting. I'm always really interested in like the two dudes that must have been, because you're an MMA fan, right?
Yes.
I want to go back to that training, but here's my thing. Like the two dudes, as far as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like they're in this like little room, and there's like, okay, if I do this, and I'll be able to tie you up like that.
It's so interesting.
Okay, but so my other thing about acupuncture is, who's the dude that says, okay, I'm gonna get this needle, and I'm gonna stick it in this little gimmick right here, and all the little neural pathways, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But the evolution of that, or who thought of it?
You can say that to everything then.
I know.
And I do that to myself, and I'm like, like, why is there and it's stupid, I don't want to start, but I talk to Bailey about it sometimes when we're driving. I'm like, wow, look at that. I wonder how that came about, or how did that come about? Or even a dumb thing that we talked about recently, like, I don't see Dalmatians anymore. Where are they? Did they get extinct? Like, you know what I mean?
You don't see too many Dalmatians.
No, where do they go?
I think they started charging them too much for the spots.
But I always ask myself little questions like that.
Okay, speaking of spots, I want to get back to my original MMA question. But speaking of spots, I was thinking, back in the day, when you watched the earlier pro wrestling stuff, it was guys just basically grappling, and then they had those real crappy ropes. So who was the dude that finally started saying, okay, man, let's start using these ropes? And when did the high spot started being called a high spot?
Yeah.
Back to the question. Your MMA training, how far did you get with that?
So
are you like a lethal weapon?
No, I'm not. So I forget what it was. It wasn't like judo. The first thing I tried when I was 13, I got to a brown belt, which I wasn't really that great, but I did love just like rolling and falling and pretending like it was something with wrestling. That was my favorite thing, and grappling was awesome. And then when I moved to Boston, I went to an MMA school called City of Tong, and I did more Muay Thai, and I loved it. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm like, this is awesome. Until we started sparring, and I legit got punched in the face. I'm like, no, I still want to look pretty for wrestling. I don't want to get punched in the face. Don't hit me so hard. So it wasn't until then. And then I started joining wrestling school when I was 18. I was like, okay, I have to stop doing MMA because I don't want to get punched in the face for real. So I took that, and I just wanted MMA to help me get used to wrestling.
It's funny, people always ask me, because I'll be on Twitter while the UFC pay-per-views are going on, and people text me or email me, hey, man, if you'd have got onto MMA back in the day, you think you would have been in the UFC? I'm like you. I don't like getting hit in the face.
Yeah, I don't like getting hit in the face.
I like to think of myself as a pretty tough guy.
Me too.
Tough with the respect of being inside the squared circle and being able to endure the schedule and go through the grind.
Exactly.
So here's the question. Nobody likes getting, fighters are wired different. I guess everybody's wired to do what they do. Yeah. But I didn't like to be punched in the face. But once I got into wrestling school, it was Chris Adams Wrestling School, the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas. It was after the Saturday television taping that went live that night, or live to tape. And so all the people would get out of the building. All the students would roll in. It would be gentleman Chris Adams and a guy named Chico who would put us through the paces. It was the normal tumbling drills, the backwards, rolls, the forward rolls, the opposite shoulder rolls, and then that flat back bump. Yep. And it was running the ropes. And, to me, when I started doing that, and I was coming from a football background, track and field, we didn't have wrestling where I grew up at, but just something about being in that ring, and I believe we were in an 18-footer. It was an 18-foot ring because 16-foot are very efficient and they're so fun to work in, but they can be a pain in the ass. But you can never blow up at a 16-footer. If you do, you're really in bad shape. And then when you get that 20 by 20 in WWE, you've got all this room to create this masterpiece or stink the joint out. But I loved taking bumps. And so sometimes she was like, I brought up a story the other day, Tough Enough, when I hosted that in 2011, Miss America. Oh, I can't remember her name.
Yeah. When she did the forward roll.
But that flat back, you see it in people's faces. I don't mean to single her out because there's many who think they want to be a pro wrestler, but all of a sudden you start hitting that mat and it just ain't some people's cup of tea. Right. But how was it for you going from, okay, I don't want to be punched, but now let's talk about the flat backs.
So how I joined, it was almost like a fantasy camp. And I remember I saw it when I was 17. I was about to turn 18. And I was like, oh God, I have 3 months to prepare. So I started working out, getting ready. I thought it was do or die. I thought I was going to be in there with people like you or Batista or all these big guys. And I remember I walked into the school and I was like, what I saw all these kids dressed up like Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, I kind of got this in the bag, I thought. I was the only girl, and they taught us how to roll, how to hit the ropes, how to get in and out of the rings, and then came the bumping. And I was like, okay, you got this. Don't be afraid. And I kind of just slid and didn't take a good bump because I was so scared of knocking myself out. Yeah. I didn't understand about tucking your chin and taking that bump. Mm-hmm. So afterwards, whatever, I didn't do a good job bumping, but they gave me this scholarship for the 3-month free training. A week later, I tried bumping again. I wasn't good at it. And I was so mad at myself. I was like, this is your dream. What are you doing? You're scared of taking a bump? This is what you wanted since you were 10. So what I did, I took my mattress from upstairs. I brought it down to my brother's room, put it on top of his mattress, and I just bumped for hours on this mattress. The next day at training, I went in. I was like, okay, boom. I'm like, that was pretty easy. That wasn't that bad. And I just loved it. I love taking bumps. And when you're brand new, your trainers are always like, don't do too many bumps. You kids are so stupid, this and that. I'm like, I love it. Why not? And now getting older, I'm like, okay, I should have cut out some of these bumps. But, I enjoy bumping. I love wrestling. I love telling a story and creating magic and, captivating fans. That's what I love about this business so much, is that you can make them hate you or love you and, just be so glued to the television being like, what's next? I love wrestling so much. I feel like I was put on this earth to do it.
What were you, you were studying the business. You started studying with a keen interest. You started watching at 10, but you were, okay. It seems to me that you were watching the process and you're like, okay, did you know that it was entertainment, or were you under the mindset that this is real or it's kind of real, or where were you? Because when I was watching as a kid, it was real, but this is back when it was the Stone Ages.
Yeah. So I didn't know that it was really fake until I was 12. Of course, you tell people you love wrestling.
Fixed.
Yeah. I don't want to say, yeah.
Yeah. Because we hurt too much.
We do.
Yeah.
Since I was 12. And when you tell people you love wrestling, they're like, oh, that fake stuff? Oh, which kind of wrestling? I'm like, the WWE type. That's fake or fixed. I'm like, wait, no, it's not. And it wasn't really till I was 12 and going into online school and discovering the internet where you learn about everything and you go, wait, the Undertaker's real name is Mark Calloway? And you're like, what? That's when I realized wrestling is fixed and not too real. When you use the internet, you're like, people have real names, they have real lives, and wait, what? Like, this was planned storyline, and you hear all these dirt sheets and all this stuff, and you're like, oh, it's different, huh?
So how was this wrestling school? I mean, who were the trainers, and how were you as a person who was trying to learn the business?
Yeah.
Were you adaptive? Did you soak it all up and you were natural?
I did. I wanted to learn it all. I had 3 trainers. It was Brian Fury, who owns the school now. It's New England Pro Wrestling Academy. Handsome Johnny and Brian Malonis. So
was Handsome Johnny handsome?
No.
Okay.
Sorry. His name is Hanson now.
Everybody that's handsome really is.
It's not at all.
Beautiful Bobby, who was one of my all-time favorites, was not beautiful.
Yeah.
He was Bobby, and who was a wonderful human being, but one of the funniest guys I ever met. Anyway, go ahead.
So it was great having.
I had to ask.
Yeah, it was great having 3 different trainers because they were so different. Malonis treated me like a daughter. But, these boys didn't want to hit me. I was the only girl in the school. And he's like, no, you're going to come in here and you're going to treat her like everybody else. You're going to take her, slam her, body slam her, all this stuff. Handsome was a little mean to me. But in wrestling, you need to have tough skin. And Brian Fury, man, after every single class, I would get in that car with my mom and I would cry all the way home because I'm like, man, this guy is so mean. But I learned the most from him because his knowledge is just top to bottom the best, and everything he taught me, like, I just wanted to be the best because I wanted to show him how badly I wanted this. Like, he was trying to break people to see if they wanted to stay in this business.
Right.
And I knew in my heart this is exactly what I wanted to do. But I remember crying after every single class. And it wasn't until like a year after I was just like, you know what? No, you belong here. You're doing better than these guys, and you're doing it. You're getting it. You belong here.
Well, when you were crying and then driving home with your mother, did you ever think about quitting?
Never.
Still didn't have a plan B.
No.
You're going to be a wrestler.
I was going to be a
sports
wrestler.
Entertainer.
Yeah. And it was crazy. Back then they were still doing bra and panty matches. So going to class and, the guys would be like, oh, did you see that Playboy match? You're going to do that? That's what you're going to do on Raw when you get signed, right? I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to go to Japan. I have, other dreams of going to Mexico and all this stuff. And it really wasn't until I got an email from a Tough Enough cast. And I told one of my trainers, and he was like, how did you get that? I'd rather watch my next door neighbor than watch you. You're boring. You're this and that. And I was like, what the? And that was instantly changed me back to wanting to be in the WWE. I'm like, I'm going to show you. And then maybe like 6 months later, I got an extra work as WWE in Boston. And they're like, how did you get that? I'm like, because I did it. I did it myself. And the head trainer, not the head trainer, but the guy who owned the wrestling school was kind of the head guy that chose who was going to be an extra in Boston. And I asked him if I could. He's like, you're not ready. And then I was like, okay. And I just found the email by myself. I emailed Ty Baylor at the time. And I was like, hey, you guys are coming in town. I would love to be an extra. Got an email legit 10 minutes later. You're in. I was like, it's that easy? It's so easy if you have a dream. If someone's saying, like, you can't do it, you got to do it on your own and see. Right. You got to put your heart out there and just, hope you get that chance. And just that, realizing that after getting an email after 10 minutes, after a guy told me I couldn't do it, I had to do it on his terms. I was like, why? And I think that's what's wrong with this. I don't want to say what's wrong with the business, but I feel like too many people wait for their opportunities instead of taking the opportunity and getting it out on their own. And I feel like that's what made the women here now, as why people are talking about it all the time, because we weren't going to sit back and wait for something to be handed to us. We're going to take the opportunity that we were given and make it 100 times more. So that's why I feel like people are talking about it so much more, because we wouldn't sit back and wait for someone to be like, okay, you're just going to have this basic 5-minute match and that's it. And this is what you're going to be handed. And, you're going to be a good soldier and just play your role. For me, coming to WWE, I always wanted to do something more. And I always say this in interviews, but I did write in my notebook when I was 10 that I wanted to be the greatest women's wrestler of all time. That was the goal. And it's so crazy being here at 25 and getting all these opportunities of having first-time evers and, having people buy tickets to see you. It's still mind-boggling to me that I am in the position that I am and people care about watching women's wrestling now.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
Check it out, car lovers. Car waxes have really come a long way. Just last year, Meguiar's introduced their hybrid ceramic spray wax. With its bright blue bottle, you can't miss it. Its advanced SiO2 hybrid technology delivers ceramic wax protection and durability far beyond traditional wax. And it's incredibly easy to use. Simply wash your car, spray on Meguiar's hybrid ceramic spray wax, then just rinse off for extreme water-beating action. No rubbing, no curing, buffing, and the best part, no mess. I'm told the product has been flying off the shelves. And this year, knowing some prefer a more traditional style of application, Meguiar's has launched their liquid version, Meguiar's Hybrid Ceramic Liquid Wax. Long-lasting ceramic protection and an easy-to-use wax. Seals the paint for long-lasting protection against the elements and also delivers the same extreme water-beating action. Easy to use, applies just like a traditional liquid wax with no wax residue. Meguiar's also launched a hybrid ceramic spray detailer for in-between boosted maintenance. This removes contaminants like dust, fingerprints, or those pesky bird droppings, boosts gloss, and enhances protection in a flash. And it also contains SiO2 hybrid ceramic protection. Achieve that just washed look by gently removing fresh contaminants between regular washes before they have the chance to bond. Meguiar's has a hybrid ceramic solution for everyone. For incredible water-beating, protection, and durability beyond traditional wax, check out Meguiar's. It's ceramic made easy. Meguiar's. Are you still writing your journal? Or
I do. I still carry a
awesome.
journal. Yeah.
Please keep doing that. I always tell a lot of the guys, or anybody I talk to, is, man, keep some kind of journal. Just write some stuff down that you did, even if it's just 2 or 3 lines. If you don't have a big attention span, or just so you have some recollection, man. If it's just like, okay, man, like Anaheim tonight, L.A. tomorrow, Phoenix, Arizona the next day, the house, who you worked with, how you got there, or whatever. Because, man, down the road, you're looking at a book.
Yeah.
Down the road, I mean, you're looking at just stuff, because eventually you'll probably be like me. You'll forget half the stuff.
Oh, I do all the time now.
Have it logged as a memory. Go back to Brian Fury, Handsome Johnny, those guys coming out of school, getting on the indie scene. You were working as Mercedes VK?
KV.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all right.
Mercedes KV. I was close.
It's close.
God dang it, so close, but so far. Tell me about your style, what you were doing back then as opposed to the work that you're doing in ring now as the legit boss, Sasha Banks.
A huge difference. I don't even like thinking about it, because I was just a very happy little baby face, so full of joy, feeling like, I made my dreams. Let's go get it. My style was anything and everything. I wanted to jump off the top rope and do dives and, take all these risks. But I wouldn't say I had one style. I just this very bland baby face, doing all the moves that I wanted to do, not really understanding, telling a story and everything. And that was the same person that came into FCW when she got signed. Same. I was just happy to be there, doing my job, this and that, until finally I was just like, I need more. I need a character. I need a character, because that's what the fans, connect to. Once they connect to that, then they'll start, appreciating your work. And again, I wasn't being used. I was just being a good hand. And it wasn't until we were doing NXT tapings, and it would be like legit the same every month. I would be like, hey, to the writers, what am I doing this week? Oh, you have a match with Bayley. Okay, cool. Next month, what do I have this week? A match with Bayley, or a match with this person. And I'm like, am I ever going to have a story or go anywhere? And they're always like, no, you're a really good wrestler. You're really good at making these girls look good. And I took that as such like a stab to the heart. And I'm like, I didn't come here to be a good hand. I didn't come here just to be a person, I don't want to say put over, just to make people look good. I came here to be a superstar. And I took that to heart, and I was like, I went home with my fiance at the time, and I'm like, we need to write all these characters. And I talked to Tyler Breeze too, because he was in the same boat as me of not having a character. And he told me the same thing. He's like, have different names, have different characters, have different bios for them, and go to promo class and see what sticks. The first thing that came to mind was the boss, because I was like, you know, you need to accept it that you're Snoop Dogg's cousin. People call him the boss all the time, so I'm like, I'm going to be this flashy, you know, cocky character, because truly, I don't like saying it, that's what I am. I knew at the time that I was the best woman wrestler in that place. The best. And if I believed it in my heart, but if I showed it to these people, I bet that they would believe me, because if I believe myself, how can you not believe me? So the first promo I did was in front of Dusty, and I was like, I'm the meanest. I'm the baddest. I'm the prettiest. I am the boss of NXT. And I remember Dusty seeing that. He's like, that's the sassy Sasha that I wanted to see all along. Because I remember doing promo class all the time, and I would cry. I would be a nerd. I didn't feel comfortable talking until I found this boss. And he's like, I always pictured you being sassy. I want to see sassiness. And I couldn't find my sassiness until I found the legit boss. And every week I would work on my promos, and he would just be like, there's something to this. And then I finally used it.
But going back to when they said, you know, you asking them, hey, do you have any plans for me? No, you're good. You're good at making people look good. I mean, that's a compliment.
It is
in a way. But it also means, it's kind of like, you know, the first few times when I could have come to WWF back in the day, I did not, because I knew that they saw me as a mechanic.
Right.
And yeah, I could have good matches with people, but that's as far as they saw me. And so on the third time, you know, that's when I eventually came. You know, they put the ringmaster on me. That sucked, but it was a foot in the door. And they called me rather than me call them.
Right.
So, you know, and, you know, WCW had fired me. I could only stay in ECW for so long when it was a learning tree of Paul Heyman, which was instrumental in me trying to learn about what a character needed to be, or at least how to cut a promo. One time, a long story, I've told it many times, but as it pertains to what you just said, we were riding to Memphis, Tennessee. It was myself and Dr. Tom Pritchard and Primetime Brian Lee. And Tom looked over at me and he goes, Steve, what's so stunning about Stunning Steve? And I had never thought about what a character was. That was just a name that Dutch Mantel had given me, you know, when I turned heel. And I didn't know, because there wasn't nothing stunning about me. I wasn't particularly a great-looking guy back in the day, and the gimmick, the wardrobe I had was nickel and dime. I was just a cocky, arrogant guy. That was it. That was my whole shtick. And, you know, I would ask Ricky Steamboat when he came down to WCW, you know, when I got up there, I said, what am I missing? He goes, I don't think you're missing anything, Steve. I was missing a character. Right. When I got a chance to unleash and harness and create and cultivate and grow Stone Cold, that's when it turned into what it turned into. So when you started coming up with a legit boss and you're working with Dusty Rhodes and you go through promo class, and all of a sudden you kind of got the sassiness. And that I was looking for a word to describe that, because I love watching you walk down, because you have the swagger. And so now we call it the sassiness, but I see the confidence and the cockiness as well. It's funny to me, and not funny, but right now you're working baby.
Yep.
I love Sasha Banks, the legit boss, as a heel, because I feel that that's when you're on full on with your persona, your character, your system.
Everything. Yeah.
I always liked working heel. I was a babyface that brought a lot of gray area into the black and white world. And then, you know, because of the time, you know, then I turned into this monster baby through positioning and Jim Ross's way of talking about me. So I was a different baby. So talk to me about working baby and working heel, and what I know you love. I know you love to be in the ring. Period.
Yeah.
Heel or baby? Which do you prefer being?
I've been thinking about that a lot lately, because usually I just say both, just to give that bland answer. But I do enjoy working heel. I feel more comfortable. I feel more free, and I feel like I'm being more of myself, because I can really be like, yeah, I'm the shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Which I feel like it's hard to be as a baby face. But in today's day and age, I feel like all these baby faces are really the heels, and all these heels are really the baby faces, because that's what the fans are cheering now. The fans are just cheering the heels and are booing the baby faces, because they want to see people kick ass. They want to see them saying stuff and doing stuff in more of a gritting way than being like, hey, yeah, I'm going to kick your butt because I'm a good guy. Yeah. And
I'm going to play by the rules.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to play by the rules. It drives me insane. I hate it.
But it's hard.
It's very hard. and it took me a while, and I'm still learning to be a babyface every day. And I don't want to say the only reason I love it, but the number one reason I love it is the kids. I love seeing little kids dress up as you, and
that's one of the things I love about your gimmick, the legit boss when you have the thing on your hand.
Yep.
Just the whole persona, the swagger. I mean, there's a ton of ways to merchandise that character or persona or you. And so I just think it's awesome. The legit boss, Sasha Banks. And Sasha Banks has a ring to it. How did you come up with that name?
Very random. I think it was like my first month in FCW, and Rob Naylor at the time, he said, we need a list of names, and I gave him a list, and Sasha was a different last name, and I don't remember, and Banks was a different first name, and then a week later, like, you're Sasha Banks, and I was like, hey, I like that. It has a nice ring to it. It sounds like a star name, so I like it. Legit
when did you
boss.
come up with the legit boss?
Well, I came up with just the boss, and I think it was the takeover where I interrupted Charlotte and Bailey's match at the end, and they were making me a shirt, and they needed to trademark something, so they just said legit boss, and I was like, okay. You know, when you first hear stuff, you're not really used to it. Yeah. Same thing with my first like theme song. I'm like, I didn't like it. I thought it sounded really girly. You got to give it a little bit to like pick up and kick, and I'm like, okay. I'm just happy that I have a shirt.
Right.
And then finally, just kind of like, it's easy. You know, legit boss, and you know that's me.
Right.
If anybody says the boss, you know it's Sasha Banks, which is really cool.
It was funny when I came up with the Stone Cold Steve Austin thing, the ring match thing. I gave it a chance 5 or 6 months. I knew it was going to go nowhere. Came up with the Stone Cold Steve Austin thing. I pitched it to Jerry Briscoe. He called Vince. I got the clearance. Okay, do it. I'm from Victoria, Texas, which my thinking on Victoria, Texas was I actually used to live there, and everybody always wants to be from this big, glorious town. I wanted to be from a regular small town, but Victoria has a cool ring to it, right? A little je ne sais quoi. So anyway, I said, okay. And it's like they just almost like saying, this kid ain't going to make it. Yeah. Let's just go ahead and let him see what we can do with this gimmick. And then Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, super guy. He goes, Stone Cold Steve Austin, huh? He goes, what's that all about? And I knew what it was about. Yeah. I didn't get a chance to express it yet, but I knew, I had a feeling once I came up with that it was going to be dynamite. Yeah. And I said, just bear with me. I said, it'll work. And it did. And so the same thing with your gimmick.
Yeah.
First of all, when you started NXT, and all of a sudden was the match, that match was that you had in Bailey at TakeOver in Brooklyn. Yeah. That was with NXT.
Yes.
Man,
that was
awesome
on the main
match.
roster.
That was the match of the year. And Bailey was next door. We watched it on television. We put you over like $1 million because it was an awesome match. And it was a great performance.
Thank you.
Do you think that's been the high point of your career? Or have you had a higher moment and that happened maybe on the road somewhere personally? Because when I watched that match, and I remember hugging you after WrestleMania 32. Y'all ripped it up. That was cool. Yeah. But when I watched that match, and it was just that match blew me away because I love the story. Everything was just so spot on. The offense, the defense, the story, going after the injured body part. Just the whole match.
Yeah.
Everybody thought it was what it was. It was spectacular. Is that the highest moment?
I do think that's the highest moment because I remember just thinking, okay, I'm on the main roster now. NXT was my home. It's really where I found myself and where people really began to want to see women work more. And at the time, I knew that was like my last match, and I wanted to go out with a bang. They were promoting it as me and Bailey as the second main event, but I'm like, hell no, I'm going to steal this show. Yep. Again, I don't want to sound cocky, but I knew that I was the best, not just women. I wanted to be the best overall, and I wanted people talking about that match. And, I remember telling Bailey my idea of wanting to do the Rana, and she's like, no, absolutely not. And I was like, no, I want to do this. This is how I want to go out. Please let me do this. And, it's crazy with other takeover matches. You kind of have like a week before to even think about it and talk about it. But I was on the main roster, so we didn't see each other until that day, which I think made it even more special. It's like we didn't get to walk over anything or try anything. And it was so magical. And I remember before I went out, I started bawling, crying. I'm like, oh my God, this is the biggest, arena that we've ever wrestled in front of at that time. And the moment that I got out of that car, I never felt so relaxed in my whole wrestling career. The moment I stood out, I was just like, this feels so right. And I got into that ring and I just heard those fans chanting, we want Sasha or we want Bailey. And I was just like, this is going to be so awesome.
Because you got them from the beginning.
The very beginning, before we even locked up, I know it was going to be something special.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
Hey, if you've been following me on the IG lately, you've been seeing me doing a lot of work on my 1974 Z28. It's a really cool car, and she's pretty because I take great care of her. We depend on our vehicles for so much these days, but they can be a lot of work. And no matter what the job, O'Reilly Auto Parts specializes in keeping your car on the road. Not sure how much life is left in your battery? O'Reilly Auto Parts can help. Their professional parts people will test your battery for free. If it does need to be replaced, they'll help you find just the right battery to fit your car. Superstart batteries, exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts, are designed to meet the electrical demands of today's vehicles. Get dependable power and performance from a Superstart battery for your car, truck, motorcycle, lawnmower, boat, golf cart, you name it. Superstart batteries are built to handle even the toughest conditions. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts today, and their professional parts people can help you find the exact battery for your vehicle. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts or visit O'ReillyAuto.com. That's OREILLYAUTO.com.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
There's something about some of the premier performances, that I was able to turn in on the big stage. Like 13 would be one of my particular favorites, and 17 with The Rock, where you just show up and for some reason that's going to be your night. And I think once I got my confidence as Stone Cold, and it started really growing. And I remember one night we were in Chicago, which was kind of a stronghold for me for some reason. In the building we used to work back in the day was a Rosemount Horizon. And it had the ceiling, I guess, is wooden beams, and the acoustics in that building are just phenomenal. And the people in Chicago are the greatest wrestling fans of all time. And man, all of a sudden, this Austin chant broke out, and I was like, shit's on, man.
Yeah.
So that's when I started getting my confidence, going back to what I was talking about. So, man, I never got nervous before anything after that, because I knew no matter what I was going to do, it was going to work. Now, don't get me wrong, I had to go out there and perform and do it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a layup. I had to perform, but I was locked in, and at that point from then on, I was in a zone. So that night in Brooklyn, you were in the zone. You just knew you had them from the get-go.
Yeah.
Nowadays, going out on a Monday Night Raw or doing promos or stuff backstage, what's the nerve factor for you? Things going through your mind, hey, I can't mess this up. Where are you?
I'm always still nervous all the time. There's moments where I'm less nervous and I'm more like, you're just going to have fun. Especially when I don't know what I'm doing or where I'm going. Those are the moments where I'm less nervous. I'm just like, what else are you going to do? Just have fun. But every time I go out there through the curtain, I'm like, I get that little jittery thing, and then I'm like, no, you belong here. So once I do my entrance, I always feel like I'm at home. But I think that's the biggest thing you pointed on is confidence.
And watching in the match with Bayley from NXT, man, there's almost no communication. You can't see the communication, and that's part of the illusion. That's part of the magic. What do you do to try to protect your calls? Because a lot of times you'll just see someone yell across the ring, and sometimes that has to happen.
Yeah.
But you're good about protecting your stuff.
I am. I think that's part of the business. It's part of the art. Is knowing when to call your spots and the right moments to call your spots. And especially, I think it also depends on the experience of the person you're with. With Bayley. And chemistry. With Bayley, I feel like we don't even need to talk at all. I know where I need to be. She knows where I'm going to be. Or if it's someone newer, I feel like I know where to put my spots and the opportunities where I can talk to them and make sure that they're okay going into the next thing and to make sure they're not lost. So that's why I love, like, wrestling. Man, you can do everything and anything and try to make it work and make magic. And telling stories is my favorite thing.
Okay, let's talk about the magic and telling the stories. Sometimes I think today, and I love the way the business has evolved and the generation that you guys are in. And
crazy generation nowadays.
Yeah, the guys and gals. I mean, just athleticism is just beyond what it used to be. And through every generation, it just keeps getting better.
Yeah.
But sometimes there becomes a point where there's so much stuff put into a short time span, it becomes a little much. And so then you start to see, because people there's tells. And it's like, okay, I can see what they're doing before they even do it. And so that kills the illusion for me, because even though, I'm out of the business, been out since 2003, I consider myself still in the business because I love it and I watch it, and that's where I'm from.
Yeah.
So I'm still in the business. But when I see that, I'm like, oh, he's driving me crazy, because you've got to protect the illusion.
Yeah.
I know you got to do a little bit more stuff because it's short attention span theater.
Yeah.
But you got to have that illusion. You see what I'm saying?
All the time. And it's so crazy. Like me and
and there's a fine line.
There's a fine line. Me and Bailey talk about this all the time, and I feel like we're getting old, but we go back.
Oh, Jesus.
I know. But we go back to being like what we were taught in NXT and like working with like Terry Taylor, and he's so old school and like, slow down, take your moments, this and that. And if you watch matches nowadays, and I hate being like that person, like, oh, well, it wasn't that great because I did this and this wrong. Ugh. I try to just enjoy it as a fan, but if they did not do so many spots, and if they took maybe 3 or 4 moves out where they could have took more time just selling, they could have made the match so much more. And I feel like we're almost, I don't say we're giving too much to the audience, but we're giving quality pay-per-view matches on Monday Night Raw. But even for me, if I see like a Seth Rollins or Cesaro, I want to do those type of matches too. So in my head, I'm thinking, is that more moves? Is it this or is it that? So even as a performer, I get confused on what the audience wants or what, backstage wants, because you see these things and you see what they like and applaud, but you see them go, 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 go. And I try to keep up with the times too. Like what do they want? Do they want more moves, or do they want to go back to the storytelling and see what brought them back to to the game of, having fans being invested? So I go back and forth all the time. But
at the end of the day, or just with everything we're talking about, going to something that you said 15 minutes ago, is that character. Mm-hmm. They have to love or hate or identify or understand who, what, where this character's coming from, what molded them, what fires did they walk through, how did this all come to be. So, in doing something, you're trying to elicit a response, and with respect to a high spot. But the people doing those high spots, or in telling the stories, making the magic, and the magic is the big story unfolding like you want it to. Right. You're starting off in this contest, and you're going for a win. Wins and losses matter. Yeah. Parody booking, in my opinion, is not good. If you want to climb to the top, you got to start winning. When I first came to WWF, they would beat me like a drum because I was the mechanic. Right. But I was working with Sean and Brett. I was doing a job every single night, but that was cool. I was working with the best, and just working on my persona, which was to come later, because people need to care about the two people in the ring. When you go to a television taping, and you've been to a million of them, or just go to a show and these two people get a tryout or whatever. And it's such a hard spot to be in, because you've been there. I've been there. And all of a sudden, for all practical purposes, we've all been there. And in front of that crowd, you're a nobody. And then you're with another person that, for that crowd, they're a nobody with respect to who and what they are. And they're trying to have a match. And it's just crickets. It's silence. They're like, well, what do we do? Nothing's going to work. And so they just start trying to, do like a demolition derby of things just to try to get a response. Exactly. So I think that if people care about the characters, I think it's not crazy bumps, it's not a faster paced action. I always believe in intensity. Mm-hmm. And if somebody cares about you, if what you're doing, your lock up or your punches or your headlocks, if it's intensity, I think speed matters sometimes in feeding a comeback. But I think the people want reality. So they can believe that. Yeah. They want to believe, man, because when you turn on that TV, because it's weird, and I've said this before on past podcasts, but people are watching wrestling and they're judging it with a double standard. They're judging what they're seeing, but they're also judging the writing. Everything. If you put on some show on TV, like I guess The Big Bang Theory is still a big show on TV, which I've never seen, but it's a very popular show. So they're not watching the characters and they're thinking, well, why'd they write so-and-so to say that? Right. But in wrestling, that's what they're doing, or at least the IWC. So, but I believe if you have intensity and you mean what you do, and you're trying to win that match, I think that's what people want. They want reality. Exactly. I do believe that too. They want to believe, and you need to show them that is real and that you are trying to win. And that's the biggest thing for me too. Is like if I go back, which is so hard for me to watch my matches sometimes because I'm my biggest critic, and I'm like, I cringe. Oh, but like recently I watched back Survivor Series,
and I hated everything I did because I don't know if I didn't believe what I was doing or if I was just like unsure. You know what I mean? Because sometimes your time gets cut and you're like, okay, how can I communicate with this person of what I want to do, and will they know if I say this? You know, it was just, I hate that.
The one thing that, you know, but you know, what was really hard is when someone says, hey man, you guys are probably going to get 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden someone comes up to you and says, hey man, y'all got 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, you just whacked out about 5 minutes of stuff.
And then you're trying to figure out what do you need to take out, what's not important to your story, and what's going to make the most sense.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
Hey, there's no shortage of action going on at our exclusive partners, BetOnline. Sports are slowly making their way back with UFC, boxing, NASCAR, and soccer leading the way, and BetOnline has all the best odds and lines for the upcoming games and matches. Make sure to stay tuned to this podcast as sports analyst and host of Good Sports, Dave Damashek, discusses the welcome return of sports with BetOnline's Dave Mason. Looking for something else other than sports? BetOnline also has hundreds of live casino games, poker tournaments, and all the best props in the business. Visit betonline.ag or use your mobile device and join now to receive your new welcome bonus and start playing today. BetOnline, your online wagering experts. When did you get a sense that, hey man, I'm starting to get over? And then when did you say, hey man, I'm over?
Ew. I don't even like to think that way. Well,
but you had to notice a difference.
I did notice a difference when I was wrestling. I had a match against Emma, and they were chanting ratchet, and I thought it was rat shit. And it's really the first chant I ever got at NXT because I was really just getting nothing.
But what is ratchet?
Like a ghetto girl.
Oh.
Yeah. Which I was. That was my character.
Working heel?
I was working heel.
Okay.
It was my first, like...
So they were chanting at you?
Yeah, they were chanting at me. I was like... Okay, well, at the time I thought they were calling me rat shit, and then I came to the back, they're calling you ratchet and OBT, which in Orlando, that's where the prostitutes stand on the corner, and I was like, oh, well, at least they're chanting. And then the following month, they kept chanting and chanting. I'm like, okay, this is cool. This is wrestling. Yeah.
I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
To get that kind of response.
And it wasn't really till I guess I was going into a story with Charlotte at NXT, and we were getting back and forth chants and people were caring. And after our match at NXT TakeOver, you know, that's when people really, I feel like really got with my character and was like hating me. And then more chants, and then I saw more signs, and then I saw more people buy my shirts, and then, you know, we're getting more time at like live events, and then it kind of went from there. I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
Hey man, I was reading like Snoop Dogg's your first cousin.
Yes.
Did he help you with the persona? Or?
No, I stole his boss persona.
Oh, tell me about that.
So he's my cousin, but we're not very close. People always think like we're like best friends or like really cousins where we went to each other's houses and got to hang out. No, I didn't meet this guy until maybe I was like 12, and he came to Iowa for a concert. And, you know, anytime he came around, we would always go to the concert and this and that. And, he told me he loved wrestling, and I told him I love wrestling, and that was our bond. And anytime he went to, you know, he hosted Raw, or if I saw he was, you know, hosting, you know, WrestleMania and doing the Divas match, I was like, please bring me with you. And every time he did, and that was our bond, is the love of wrestling. And we always talked about wrestling, and I always told him that I wanted to be a wrestler when I grew up. And he's like, if that's your dream, you go get it. And it's so crazy that was at WrestleMania 32, he did my entrance, and I was like, how is this possible? This is so cool. What a dream come true of having a legend in the rap game come out and do your entrance. And it's your family member too. So it's awesome.
I was looking at the rosters for Raw and SmackDown, and just looking at the main roster, at least what's on Wikipedia.
Yep.
There's 11 women on each spot, on each show. I know there's more up and coming.
Yeah.
They're bringing some new ones in, introducing new people all the time. So competitive. I mean, it's always about keeping your spot. How's that pressure?
It's very hard. It was much harder when we were doing both Raw and SmackDown. I feel like now that the brand's split, you kind of know who has the spot right now. And I recently learned, like, you're not always going to be number one. And especially with the women's division, we're so small, it's going to cycle. and you're going to have the opportunity to be number one again, and you're going to go back down, and it's legit like a Ferris wheel. So it's not even more of like who's going to be number one. You just like whoever's the champion right now. It's Alexa Bliss. She's going to be number one. Whoever she's with the storyline with, that's what it is. They only really write for the championship match. Hopefully we get some tag team women's championships coming up, so we have more of a story right now. But, it's good that having, Paige and the two new girls, finally it's something more, it's something different. It's not about the championship. So I'm very interested to know where we're going next. I have no idea. And that's kind of like, going in so blank of not knowing what you're going to do next. But it's exciting to know that it's in a different direction, and hopefully it's leading to something even bigger.
Where are you guys going after, I know you've got Anaheim tonight, which is a house show. Monday Night Raw is in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And then from where? Are you going home?
I'm going to San Diego for a tribute to the troops, and then I go to India.
Okay, when y'all going to India? Because I was on your Instagram account,
Tuesday.
and y'all just got back from the UK.
We did.
How was that?
Long. Those are so brutal, but they're fun at the same time. But 2 weeks wrestling every single day in a different city or a different town, that stuff is so hard. It'll hit it like the second week, you can see the guys' faces where they're just like, don't talk to me, don't look at me, we're tired of the food, we're tired of not getting to sleep, we're not going to the gym. It's just it's long. It's
it is. Man, we used to roll over there, and again, this is back in the caveman days, but this is the way we used to roll. You've probably seen that picture online of all us guys in the back of that tour bus. I mean, that was every single night. And Sasha, it didn't matter. Again, it's the Wild Wild West. I don't know what's up these days, but it's a different ball game. Y'all, there's so much more corporate sponsorships and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, guys were crazy back in the day. And we would be all back there, and it didn't matter because normally the way we did those tours, and y'all are going to many more places than I went to, but we go to the UK for a week, and then we go to Germany for a week, or Germany for a week, then the UK. And as you know, there's two buses. There's a heel bus and there's a baby bus. And you still want to protect the integrity of the business. Yeah. So anyway, man, that heel bus, holy
Rowdy.
Smokes. And it might have been a Babyface bus. Everybody was so edgy back then. It was the Attitude Era, but God dang, you talk about a party. There was just I don't know who was in charge of it or how it worked, but whenever you go to the building, you get your catering.
Yep.
Then you make your to-go meal. Do y'all still do that?
Yes.
Okay, you make your to-go meal that you're going to eat on the bus when you get to the hotel. And then, we're going to drink all night long, and we did. But whenever we rolled up to any hotel, this is a straight-up shoot. Whether it was UK, England, it didn't matter how far the drive was, whether we drove 2 hours or 6 hours. The bar was open when we landed. And all the boys were in the bar. I mean, it was madness. But going back, to getting to you, the road is brutal.
It's very hard.
And so how, you just got back from UK. That's brutal. It's extremely tough. And how long will you be in India?
I think just 3 days. I think.
That's
You never know.
That's one of the few
it's like
places,
15 hours.
I know. That's one of the places I haven't been.
Really?
Yeah. They're like crazy for wrestling over there.
They are. We have a lot of Indian fans, according to my Twitter, because they tweet me all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm really excited. It's my first time going. And I love going to new places and, meeting new fans and seeing what, how they're going to react over there. It's really different.
Oh, you're a big fan of Japanese wrestling.
Yeah.
Growing up with the All Japan stuff. So you've got a chance to wrestle up in Japan a few times.
Just one,
once?
I'd only done one tour. And
so how was it? Did you dig it? Because, they can lay back.
Yeah, it was everything that I hoped for. I love the culture. I love the food. And even the fans, I think there was only one night where they were kind of quiet just watching. But other than that, they were trying to be
mess with you?
It didn't really mess with me because I've watched it so many times and I've always heard just the quietness and yay. But I enjoyed it and I was like, I feel like I belong here.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on PodcastOne.
Did you know that right now Geico is offering an extra 15% credit on car, motorcycle, and RV policies? That's 15% on top of the money Geico could already save you. So what are you waiting for? Your dog to make you breakfast in bed? With Belgian waffles and a fresh food compote? As nice as that sounds, that's probably never going to happen. But at least there's never been a better time to switch to Geico. Save an extra 15% when you switch by October 7th. Visit geico.com to learn more. here's something interesting thought that sometimes when I'm watching some older matches from, or even some of the new stuff from New Japan, but watching All Japan, New Japan from back in the day when a lot of guys that, from my era were traveling, and watching the new guys from New Japan. Sometimes, and going back to what those people want, sometimes, that guy will start teeing off another guy, and then just all of a sudden that other dude will just fire up. Fire.
Yeah.
I think fire is another thing that people want to see, because to break from the pack, you have to sell. Everybody's going to sell. Yeah. You don't want to oversell, because there's some of that going on right now. But I think, intensity and fire, and want to believe, but that's one of the things, because a lot of times when I watch some of those, I got a chance to go to Long Beach a few months ago when New Japan came through town. And God dang, I'm going to mess up that guy's name. Their top baby. Okada, yeah. Okada was working with,
was it Kenny?
It was Cody Rhodes.
Or Cody, yeah.
Holy
I heard you talking
smokes.
about the match. Yeah, working the leg, right?
Yeah. All of a sudden, man, Okada went into that, it was like Shakespearean theater, Hamlet.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, man, that crowd started coming. I was like, man, this is a good-looking kid. And that crowd just started, I was like, son of a gun.
That's an American crowd, too.
I know. But just selling, I'm rambling, but selling fire, intensity, believing. But one of my biggest pet peeves is the oversell and the pander.
Yeah.
Or you get kicked in the mouth and you just keep. Not you. I'm saying it's just too much of this. I keep touching my mouth, but it's like, okay, we get it, dude.
So many times
you got punched in the mouth, and you're saying, okay,
but you can't do it for every sell.
Yeah.
Or if I see girls do like the hair bill and they pull out the fake hair, I'm like, how are you going to do that every single time? Because I see no hair on your hands, and they pull out the hair.
Right.
Like, we have to change up our sellings every different sell. Yeah.
Everybody has a favorite region or a favorite town. Chicago is a stronghold for me.
Yeah.
Every now and then we would go down to Jacksonville, Florida. I just like the Coliseum because it just smelled like wrestling. Texas was good for me. The Garden is special because it's a garden. Mm-hmm. Houston Summit, which Joel Osteen now runs out of. we used to wrestle there. Joel Osteen's preaching out there now. Your favorite spots to do battle in?
It's, of course, all the big cities. I feel like that's where the crowd are the rowdiest and the loudest.
And that's good.
It is. And I love, have fun, fans. Have so much, just live. Be loud. There's nothing worse than going to an arena that's sold out and they're quiet and just watching. It's the worst feeling ever.
Because you get back what you give.
Yeah, and you're just like, did I do a good job? Because you guys are not letting me know. You're just quiet watching. So I'm like, did I do my job right?
Sometimes, man, we were working some of those B towns up here in Canada, like Hull. Yeah. Hull's Hull, with respect to everybody that lives there. And it's like, God dang, what do you
What do you guys want?
What do they come for?
Yeah, exactly.
Did they know that there's some wrestling in that ring? Hey, he's saying shit.
Exactly.
But the favorite market, like the Garden is a special building.
Garden, of course, because, once they say from Boston, that crowd just goes nuts, and you're just like, yay. Chicago's always been amazing. I just like all those rowdy crowds where, they'll either boo you or hate you, or boo you or cheer you. There's no in between. I love that.
What do you listen to when you're going down the road? Back in my days, it was country music, and this is back in the day.
Yeah.
We filmed one of my DVDs where we started off. We were running Florida. I think we drove down to, it was Jacksonville or Tampa. It was about a 200-mile drive, and I was driving a Ford F-150 pickup, drinking beer. They had camera guys in the vehicle with me, and they're asking me questions. I'm talking, and
drinking beer.
Oh man, it was unbelievable. And as I'm driving down the highway, it's basically like a spotlight. And this was, I think it's an Austin 316 video, whatever. That's outlaw.
Yeah.
That's outlaw as hell. You can't drink and drive no more.
Yeah, no.
You wasn't supposed to back then, but we was making a video. So the question was, what do you listen to?
I listen to everything, legit everything, from Japanese music, Korean music, rock, hip hop, country. My range is everything. I enjoy everything. I don't have one genre that I just like.
Are you into movies at all, or series?
I do. I love so many shows, and I binge watch them so much that I forget what I've watched. I love Breaking Bad, Son of Anarchy. Recently, I just finished Stranger Things. What are other things I just finished? Black Mirror. Have you seen that?
What is it?
Black Mirror on Netflix.
No, I didn't see that.
You'll love that.
I watched Walking Dead. Walking Dead was, I
couldn't get into Walking Dead.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Oh, man.
I'm the type.
But Breaking Bad is number one.
Yeah, I can't be the type of person of everybody's talking about it.
Right.
I have to wait a little bit. Even though Stranger Things, everyone was talking about, I'm like, that's a really good show.
Right.
I kind of have to wait a couple years and get on the bandwagon. So maybe once it's over, I'll get on Walking Dead. I'll give it a try.
I'm always late to everything just because I don't really watch too much TV. Did you watch Narcos?
I did. I finished it finally.
Did you see season 3?
Not season 3.
Okay, we just watched
the
last episode of season 2 just so we could remember the finish.
Yeah.
So now we're about to kick that off. But man, that dude that played, what's his name, was awesome.
He did awesome. Incredible.
And his wife was badass.
Yeah.
So now that I remember the finishing scene. Now the guy's in there, the guy that they booted out, I forgot his name, dude with the mustache. Is his name?
Yeah.
The Cali Cartel.
Yep.
So that's what the third season will be about. Jesus Christ. Cut that out, Sean. The third season. Leave it in. I popped Sasha. The Cali Cartel, damn it. Steel Chair City. You enjoy being on the road?
I do.
You're 25. You've been doing this for 7 years.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I didn't have long-term plans. Do you?
I think about it a lot because I go back and forth on what I want to do. Sometimes I'm like, I just want to retire and be a producer. I really love creating, matches. But then I see what they go through and I'm like, I do not want to do that. I do not want to be yelled at or the stress of it all. But I really, really enjoy helping putting matches together. And I think Bailey wants to be a trainer. I think she's so good and patient and like really good at explaining stuff. And I like explaining what I think makes moments. So maybe we would be a good team like that. But that's a goal. Maybe I go back and forth, or I just like to retire and just lay on my couch the rest of my life and do nothing.
But how many years do you feel like you have in you? Because at 25, I'm thinking, hey, you got at least 10 more years left in you. But you started so young.
I did.
But my point is, I'm a huge football fan. Are you a football fan?
I am. I like the Steelers.
Man, I like the Steelers, and they've got a good team this year.
They do.
And they started off not so good, and now they're kicking ass. And of course, back in the day when Terry Bradshaw was playing and Franco Harris was a running back, when they won 4 Super Bowls, they were my favorite team.
Yeah.
My dad was always cheering for the Dallas Cowboys. So they thought, I was supposed to be a Dallas Cowboys fan because I was from Texas.
That's
no, I was a Steelers fan.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, but now I float all over the place.
Yeah.
I like
just
just
enjoy
different
watching,
players
right?
and coaches and programs and stuff like that. But my point is, like a lot of times, the premier running backs at 30 and 31, 80% of them are out the door.
Right.
So you're 25 in 5 or 6 years, you'll be 30 or 31.
Yeah. Scary to think about.
And then these guys are getting out so young.
Yeah.
I forgot the one guy from San Diego, the linebacker. He's now an NFL analyst. So now he made the transition. These guys got to start. They've got to start a whole new life at 30, 31, and
still
get
young.
away from what they're good at.
I don't want to put a number on it because whenever God tells me to, but at the same time, I also don't want to be one of those people who went past their time, which kind of scares me because I love this so much. But I don't know. I've done a lot at 25, and I wonder how much more can I do. So I don't know. I'll leave it in God's hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to be 30 and I'm done. I would love to be a mother one day. Not anytime soon.
Yeah.
But whenever God tells me it's time to hang up my wrestling shoes.
What kind of hobbies you got? What other than sports entertainment, I will say professional wrestling, do you have a passion for? For me, it's outdoors. It's 4-wheel drive. Yeah. It's just I love hunting and stuff like that. I love being alone. I love being outdoors.
I love being alone too. It's so sad. All I have is wrestling. When I'm at home, I watch wrestling. That's all I think about. Most recently, the kind of a hobby. I don't know if you care because you're a guy, but I like makeup. I like.
I don't.
Girls love makeup. I love makeup.
Well, I noticed a lot of your Instagram posts.
I
know you're really into fashion and some of the stuff you wear. So
well, you just have to post because that's free stuff.
Yeah, I get it. I get
so,
it.
if they send you free stuff, you got to do that post.
But also,
you got to look nice to post it. I think.
But you're passionate about it.
I wouldn't say that's a big passion, but I do love makeup. That's the number one thing. I thing that kind of gets me away from wrestling because it's like it takes an hour to do. But other than that, I just enjoy being at home. I love watching my Netflix and my Hulus and like binge watching shows. And I love just being around my husband. I have a really nice backyard. I love sitting out there and just looking at the trees and the nature.
Hey man, I always tell people when I came up with this Stone Cold Steve Austin thing, I'm a very competitive person from my athletic endeavors in football and stuff like that. And so, I didn't talk all that shit, when I was out there in the football field, but I mean, the effort was the same. When the bell rang, I was a high effort guy. I want to make my stuff look good and I want to have a compelling match that is believable. So Jake the Snake Roberts way back in the day, there are some guys observing him, some guys that brought their friends to the arena. And the question was, hey, man, who's your favorite guy? I said, oh, man, that guy over there, Jake the Snake Roberts. Why do you like Jake so much? Well, he sits over and smokes his cigarette. And then to warm up, he just moves his arms like this 2 times. And then he goes to the ring carrying a snake. And that's pretty cool. So that was Jake's MO of getting ready to go to the ring. He was relaxed. For Stone Cold Steve Austin, I didn't need to go crazy, bang my head against the door, nothing like that. I need to spin myself up. Hey, man, that glass broke, shit was on, and as BMF walked down to the ring. So what I'm getting at is the Stone Cold character was just me turned up, kind of, when I'm talking to you, and I love talking about wrestling so much I get caught up in it. So like now I'm at a 6 or 7. I'll back down to a 2. When I'm sitting across from a legit boss, Sasha Banks, complete different.
I'm really different,
than the badass chick I see on Monday Night Raw.
So you're saying, how do I get into that mode?
Yeah, I mean, it's your alter ego. Or?
It is. I do say it's myself turned up.
Yeah.
All the way up.
Yeah.
It's me when if I had a couple of drinks, a couple of vodkas. That's what Sasha Banks is. Letting loose, all the way up, doesn't care what she says, doesn't care what feelings she hurts.
Is that heel mode?
That's both.
Both? Okay, copy.
I feel like if you're going to be heel or babyface, you got to kind of stay true to yourself too. Whether you're
correct,
and that's the number one thing I learned. I'm like, well, how do I be a babyface? You just do your same stuff. That's what people always say. But there's different motives.
There's a line to walk.
There is, but you have to have different motives now. I have to do things the right way,
right.
the babyface way. I don't know how I get into that mode. I usually, before I go out, I always say the same prayer, and I always just talk to myself. I'm like, what's your story? What happened to you last week? And what's your motive? And the biggest thing for me, it's you're going out there to try to win and get these fans to care. I think it's the number one thing. When I walk out that curtain, I want people to care about me. And the moment I need to be on for them to care. If I just come out being how you see me now, I don't think they're going to care at all. So I'm always like, okay, I'm the baddest bitch when I walk out, and there I am, the baddest, the boss.
But here's the thing. When I turned heel after 17 in a battle with The Rock and a new attendance record for the Houston Astrodome. They said George straight broke it. I don't believe that. Anyway, so I switched from a badass baby. It was really a heel, but at the time, it was what it was. So then when I switched heel, I started, I went to total chicken shit heel mode rather than embracing what the Stone Cold didn't back down from anybody. Now, all of a sudden I started backing away from people and playing chicken shit heel. And it was like, dude, I think Michael Hayes told me, he goes, what are you doing? He goes, you've never been like that. And all of a sudden you're doing it. Now? So going back to what you just said, yeah, you do still have to stay true to who and what you are, whether you are a heel or baby. But me just trying to go, okay, this is what a heel does. Exactly. I went to default mode and just did it, and I was like, oh, dude, what are you thinking?
Right.
So I really had to get more cerebral in my approach to my new heel role.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to be true to yourself.
You have to. I'm still learning. I'm trying to incorporate old Sasha Banks into this new babyface Sasha Banks, and vice versa, and just kind of waiting for them to pull that trigger of, when am I ever going to turn heel? They've teased it so many times where I'm like, is this ever going to happen? But right now, let me just enjoy and embracing this babyface role and liking the kids. I never had the kids like me before, so that's why I feel like my character always envied Bailey. Man, those kids love her.
Yeah, they do.
And the moment I turned babyface and I saw my first kid dress up, I'm like, oh, this is why she likes this so much.
I mean, that's so cool. It's flattering. It makes you feel good. But then again, by the same token,
it's time to have fun. It's
time
to let loose.
You,
yeah, it's an awesome feeling. I love it.
I think the hardcores fans are still going to embrace either or because they just want to be entertained at the end of the day.
I agree.
But you have to at least find, like I said, when you see the kids are dressing up, it validates or
yeah, but it scares me. It's like, are they not going to like me now? Are they going to not dress up as me anymore? I'm like, I don't know, but we'll see.
Hey, let's start off the microphone and we'll talk shop.
Yeah,
off the air. Is there anything else you want to talk about while we're on the air? I know we've got to plug your social media, Instagram and Twitter.
I'm Sasha Banks WB on both. Follow me.
Anything else you want to cover?
I think that's it. I mean, we've talked a lot. It's awesome being here in WB and in this women's division right now, where these women are taking off and being a part of history. I think it's so cool, and thinking of all the stuff that I've got to do, or even seeing the women do with the Money in the Bank ladder match, and just having opportunities like that. I just hope that we keep on having this role and keep on growing and making it more. And hopefully we get to like a women's Royal Rumble. I think that'd be really cool.
Oh man, that's a great idea.
I think that'd be badass.
That would be cool. Yeah, I love watching the way the women's division has come up, going from back in the days. Shoot, I remember when Medusa was around.
Awesome.
Like, tough, badass chick. I mean, she was one of the boys. Everybody liked her because she worked her ass off and she was tough. Yeah. She was one of the boys.
She was
amazing. And then, there was the diva era, and it was cool. And then you got your Litas, your Trish Stratuses. I mean, I want to start leaving names out, but the people that really started breaking from the pack. And now the women's division, it's not divas anymore. It's WWE superstars. Yeah. And it's just great to see so many badass women being so highly skilled in the ring and getting better and seeing the stories. So more power to you and the rest of the gals.
Hell yeah, thank you.
I'm here with Sasha Banks, the legit boss. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us for another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show. Please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and tell your friends. For more Steve Austin Show, go to PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
All right, you've already heard the news, but let me be the one telling you the news. Let's pretend that I'm the one giving it to you for the first time. Sports are coming back, and there's nothing you can do about it at this point. So your chance to bet on sports now with our exclusive wagering partner, BetOnline.ag. And joining me now is Dave Mason, who's going to be sharing some of the updates of what's coming next to BetOnline. What's happening there, Dave?
Lots finally. It's been an interesting few months. I was promoting Russian ping pong and marble races and all that sort of stuff, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But now we're back to some sports I'm somewhat familiar with, so I'm pretty happy, but getting really busy too.
I hear you, man. I mean, the summer's been consumed. Who knew so many people would love golf? But of course, when you can lay down a little bit of loot on it, it makes everything a little more fun. And now, just out on the horizon, if you don't even have to squint too hard because they're right there for you. MLB, NBA, and the puck is going to drop. I think, in particular for me, the hockey fan, I can't wait for early August to get here with 10 straight days of never fewer than 4 or 5 games, right? So yeah, and you guys are ready to take action on all those.
Yep, and we have the odds ready to rock. MLB comes first. We have our odds. We have great timelines in those. All the futures are up. The World Series, everything. We're ready to go. Of course, you had to tweak some rules here and there with a 60-game season. We had no action, all the season win totals, and put up new season win totals. And then there's been a little bit of a cat and mouse game, very hectic during the slow times. Even though it was slow and there wasn't sports, we're adjusting on the fly on stuff like that. Then the following week, the NBA starts with that 8-game regular season. We have season win. And once again, we had a no action all the season win totals because they didn't play the complete season. But we opened the 8-game season win totals for the mini season coming up and all the playoff odds, et cetera. Then, reduced juice NHL is back after that. So, and then we get into the NFL discussion, right? preseason.
Oh, now we're really talking.
It's gonna be crazy. You know, I think back like every November, there's that 1 or 2 days when all 4 sports are in session together, and what is the sports equinox? Now we're gonna have a 2-month long sports equinox, and it's gonna be insane. So the guys are rested up and they're ready to rock. So I can't wait.
Move over March Madness. Here comes Augustness. I don't know. Work on that. You can. Let's workshop that a little bit. Sure. But man, August figures to be just divine, and like you say, pro football on the other side of summertime kicking off, and it really looks like everything's tracking in the right direction there for us to get our most beloved of all sports. It must be tough to tougher. Obviously, we got a good look at which teams were relevant in terms of chasing the title in the NBA. Same goes for the NHL and the lag and how that might impact the players. Notwithstanding, I assume that setting the lines, the futures for Major League Baseball here has been especially tough with a 60-game slate coming up, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, we're in kind of uncharted grounds of territory, and you're not just paying attention to injury news now, you're paying attention to the COVID news too. Zion Williamson leaves the camp now. Who knows what's going on there? I hope everything's all right, but I'm just talking from a business standpoint. Mm-hmm. Now he's going to come back. Who knows how long he's going to be gone? When he comes back, he's going to have to quarantine. Is he going to miss games because of that? And is that going to affect, with that news came out, we started getting hit by some bets on the other side. So it's just, crazy. All these situations that are just so unique to all of us in the business. I mentioned all the no action and season win totals, and then putting up amended season win totals for an 8-game season, for God's sakes. So it's gonna be an interesting few months, but we're just so happy the games are back. We know there's gonna be some unique situations where we're gonna get hit, and the injury reports are gonna be different than they used to be, right?
Yeah,
we'll adapt. Bettors will adapt, and as long as the games are on TV tonight, that's all we care about. It's not being cavalier. Obviously, everybody's aware of how bizarre the 2020 year has been on so many fronts. And I wonder, though, if there's some smart angle of looking at guys in Major League Baseball specifically who have a knack of coming, guys who light it up in early season perennially, guys whose bats are hot in April and May, and then they tend to cool off in the second half. If focusing on if a team has a preponderance of those guys who fit that description, if they're suddenly become a nice little sleeper play for you there. Those are the kind of ununique things that you can look for here in 2020. Absolutely, especially and stuff like props too. Season leader for home runs, stuff like that. Well, how does you're throwing out a guy who starts slow and has a great summer. Well, that great summer, that's the start of the season now, guys. We all have those guys who don't hit well during the cold months, and then when the summer heat, man, they're lightning in a bottle. So you're gonna have to adjust odds accordingly. Okay, that player's gonna be meat and potatoes for 2.5 months, and
right.
And go from there. So absolutely, there's all sorts of angles, and our guys are trying to keep up with it. We have some very sharp bettors here at Bet Online, and they're all over it too.
Well, believe me, I'm looking at the NFL futures as we speak, and given more time, I would go over all 32 with you, give you my bets on all of those. But let's save that for another day. We don't have to cover 100%. It all right now, Dave. Let's kick it down the road before things kick off and review all of those, and maybe we can offer up some Dave Damashek's best bets, and then the savvy listener, will promptly go against all of those and win a lot of money with Bet Online AG. But in the meantime, thanks for the time, Dave.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Much obliged again to Dave Mason. Be sure you visit betonline.ag, and don't forget that promo code PodcastOne for your sign-up bonus. Bet Online, your online sportsbook experts.